Hey y'all, welcome back to Men Do Therapy, a show dedicated to men on their journey to mental wellness. Today we're talking about suicide prevention, baseball, and I introduce a brand new segment. Let's get going. Hey y'all, I'm your host Rene Garcia. Really glad for you to be here today. I took a week off, had some little personal stuff come up. I'm not really ready to talk about it, but it'll definitely come out in the future. So I just need to take a little time off and refocus my head. But I'm back in it. Got a really great show for you today. We're talking about suicide prevention. It's a really big topic, but one of the things that happens that we had some kind of news about it come out about a baseball player and his return as a result of a survival attempt, which is really interesting, but we'll come back to that in a second. What I wanted to do is introduce a brand new segment, and I'm kind of laughing about it in my head. Hopefully it works out or not, but I want to call it masculine sanity. All right, masculine sanity. What that has to do with is every day I kind of see, well, not every day, most days I kind of see random bullshit that just kind of makes me laugh, because it's usually some type of advertisement, some type of political figure, some type of TV show or commercial, whatever it is, that really tries to play into man's masculinity and what we should do or what is expected of us for being masculine men. And I saw a weird one today. Oh, the other day when I was driving, if you're in the DFW area and you drive down North Tollway, you'll see a billboard that says men's plastic surgery. All right, men's plastic surgery, or male plastic surgery. And I kind of laughed at that because I don't know. For one, plastic surgery is kind of an interesting topic for me. I think we have to be considerate that I think for the most part, and be aware that I think when plastic surgery comes up, we automatically think of, well, kind of like a picture like this. All right. And I used the filter on Instagram and it just kind of made me laugh because, oh my gosh, imagine if I look like that. That's insane. But anyways, I wanted to bring up this topic because I really questioned, like, who was promoting what was the reason for that promotion, right? Is it that more men are actively seeking out plastic surgery, or are we trying to now create this to where men do need the plastic surgery? I think there's common expectations or common assumptions that when we think of plastic surgery as people wanting certain things changed. I think there's some medical necessity for some plastic surgery. But I do think I really question, how is this impacting our psyche and how men see themselves, or if they need to be able to have to not only look a certain way on the outside, that it's going to impact the way they feel on the inside. So, I don't really have anything. It just made me laugh, right? Just how all these advertisements kind of promote a certain way of how men are supposed to be. And I just don't know who that's impacting. When I saw that, I laughed because I don't want plastic surgery. Do I think I'm perfect? Of course not. But I definitely don't want plastic surgery. But I really question who's driving that and saying, hey, I wonder if I do need plastic surgery now, because, that may be the answer. So, it's interesting. Maybe one day we can further deep dive into that. But I think that's today's masculine sanity, right? It's just kind of crazy how sometimes really people try to target this idea of what masculinity is. And so hopefully we can come back to that segment. All right. So what I want to talk about today is suicide prevention. Okay. Huge topic. As we're kind of wrapping up Mental Health Month here in May, I think it's really important to at least have this conversation. And I wanted to go over this video, and maybe we can just kind of watch it together. This is a news response into a minor league baseball player named Drew Robinson. If you're unfamiliar with him, I want to say a year and a half ago, or possibly even 2 years, he actually had a suicide attempt where he actually attempted to shoot himself in the eye. And he actually returned back to baseball this year with one eye. And so I wanted to just go into this clip off of this news program, and then we can kind of break it down. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll kind of stop it and watch it together.
Aviators played a baseball game with fans in the stands for the first time in nearly 2 years because of the pandemic. They lost to the Sacramento River Cats 8-1, but tonight's game included an incredible comeback story.
Yeah, what a story it is. And 13 Action News' Ross DiMattei was there to witness Drew Robinson's first game since surviving an attempted suicide.
Tonight was a big step for Drew Robinson and his journey back to the big leagues. The Las Vegas product playing pro baseball in his hometown for the first time in 2 years. And it's now been about a year since he shot himself in the head and somehow survived, making tonight's appearance a minor miracle.
Batting eighth, right fielder, number 5, Drew Robinson.
We're going to go into this. I'll pause it right there. We're going to go into the statistics in just a second, but the fact that he used a gun to attempt to kill himself is not a surprise. And in fact, that's usually, as statistics shown, and this isn't anything new, is that although females may have higher attempts at suicide, a lot of the times men have unbelievably higher amounts of completion of suicide just because they have access to certain objects such as firearms. I don't want this to turn into a political conversation. I'm definitely not afraid to talk about a political conversation, but this is just a factual indicator that because men do have access in higher rates to some of these firearms, that is a really important thing to identify of why suicide completion does happen for men at way higher rates. Let's get going.
It's an opportunity Drew Robinson admits he didn't know he'd ever get again, playing professional baseball, but this time with only one eye.
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment period. Every time you take some time off from baseball, having 2 eyes or 1 eye, there's going to be a level of rust that I have to knock off, getting back into the game speed.
Robinson's been on a long journey to get back on the baseball field. After making it to the major leagues, Drew struggled to deal with his depression. And in April of 2020, he somehow survived.
We'll pause it right there. Isn't it nuts? I think I'm not a huge baseball fan. I do like baseball. It's not my favorite sport of all time. But isn't it wild? Like, these athletes just practice so much and get prepared for so long to have all these different limbs. And that's why I think the Paralympics is insane too, because there's Paralympians that are out there that may be missing a limb, but they're still actively, doing the sports. And here he is, a baseball player where, they make it seem very easy to hit a ball with a bat, but that's probably one of the hardest things you can do in sports is hit a ball with a bat. And so the fact that he even came back with one eye, I think, is also kind of amazing. I just want to throw that out there. That to me, I think, is what makes the story even more amazing. So we'll keep going.
Major leagues, Drew struggled to deal with his depression. And in April of 2020, he somehow survived a suicide attempt. And when given a second chance at life, Robinson rededicated himself to baseball, but with a...
I want to pause it right there because I think sometimes media can oversimplify things. Now, obviously, I haven't had a chance to speak to Drew, like I know him personally or anything like that. They do like to lump in depression, and I think sometimes when we start talking about depression or anxiety, it can be just kind of such a blanket term that it doesn't really go specifically about what these things are and what are the symptoms of it, or if he was actually suffering from major depressive disorder or some form of depression such as dysthymia or, any other kind of, seasonal affective disorder type of thing. But I want you to recognize is that when it comes to depressive symptoms, usually it's kind of a spectrum. It isn't specifically just one thing and then you want to kill yourself. It usually is a collection of things that are impacted by a number of different aspects. I think the site of this program, I think, is really related to, Drew's performance in sports and, athletes and pro athletes. It's such a cutthroat. It's such like a small window of people that end up becoming athletes in their career. And so obviously you can imagine that it's very competitive. And so I think if you're wanting to compete at the highest level and you don't get up there, I think it does question kind of like, well, if this is what I'm supposed to be in my life and I'm not even at that top level, then where am I going? And so I think that absolutely can impact depressive symptoms and really how we see who we are as individuals.
With a new approach to mental health.
Unfortunately, there's going to be a growth period with that as well. And I'm kind of looking at myself as, this is going to be my 12th season as a 12-year vet physically, but I'm really like a one-year rookie when it comes to the mental side of things. So I'm still learning as I go.
After almost a year of nonstop training, Robinson earned a roster spot on the Sacramento River Cats, the AAA affiliate of the...
Love that reframe, bruh. Reframe it, my guy. Sometimes you got to reframe some stuff. Yeah, you've been a 12-year professional in the game, but, this is the first time you ever played with only one eye. That's called a reframe. Because yeah, I may be a professional, but I'm a rookie when it comes to this. Sometimes that reframe, it doesn't seem like it's a big thing, but sometimes you just have to reframe things to get yourself to understand that, things may not be exactly how you want them to be, but that doesn't mean that they're 100% terrible or that you can't succeed at this moment. Let's keep going.
It's happening, and I'm going to be able to play professional baseball again. It's just, it's powerful.
Tonight, he took a big step towards his big league comeback, starting in right field and batting 8th in his hometown of Las Vegas nonetheless.
Being able to play baseball again, and then add on top of it, I get to play baseball again in front of everyone that's been a part of this, that supported me, that's helped me. It's just special, man. I'm trying to stay present at the time. That's something I've been working on, but it's really hard not to look forward to those games.
How cool is that,
Robinson's
right?
family
Come back to
in awe,
hometown
witnessing
after a
his
suicide
comeback.
attempt, play in front of your
surreal.
family.
I mean,
Ooh,
just
I can't even
to
imagine the feels.
back
Keep
on
going.
the field playing after all of that. I mean, I prayed for it, and I watched him work out, and he's worked really hard for it. It's pretty darn amazing.
I didn't ever doubt him, but when he was being doubted, I knew he would persevere, and he's ready. He's put the work in, and he's gonna find success. It may be slow, maybe quick, but he's gonna find it.
Power of now, right? Remaining present. We'll have to do a book review of that one day, because by Eckhart Tolle. Power of now, how are we staying present? Just the fact of being able to remain present in a current situation when things are positive, and sometimes negative, can be a lifesaver down the road. I love how they interviewed the family, because I think that's an important side of it too. Sometimes family members have a disconnect of where they feel they should be in this whole journey, or what they should have known better, or anything like that. And I think, obviously it's a TV cut. It's nothing really too deep into a interview of what they all went through. But I think at least with the family members that I've worked with in the past, I mean, some members just don't have any idea. There's just a lack of knowledge about it. And it's not because they don't care. It's not because they may not feel like they, I think society is say, well, they must be bad parents. Like, that's not it at all. I think this point of when people do become or start flirting with these ideas of self-injury or suicidal ideation, when to hurt or kill themselves, this can be a very personal experience. It can be something that they may struggle with. For example, people that may be extremely religious may feel as though it's questioning a lot of their being, and that they feel as though, for me to be an insert member of this religious sect, we're not supposed to have these feelings. So therefore, it's not only feeling bad and these feelings start resulting and come as a result of those feelings, but then added on of these feelings shouldn't even be there. So now we feel kind of triple or double worse than that. And so I think this is kind of, his story, I think, is a great one. He was able to survive it. And I think a lot of the people that end up surviving suicide attempts, again, I think I read something that they did I don't have the exact number in front of me, but they found a number of people who attempted suicide off of the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. And the ones that survived, they said they instantly regretted it the second they jumped off. And so I wanted to just give you some facts about suicide here in the U.S. So apparently between the rate in 2019 was 13.93 per 100,000 individuals had some form of suicidal thoughts. On average, there are 130 suicides per day here in the United States. And actually, the rate of suicide is highest among middle-aged white men. In 2019, men died by suicide by 3.63 times more than women. I find that insane, just wildly insane. Males accounted for 69.38% of deaths in 2019. And this is all from the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. These are all numbers here, and I'll go ahead and link the website below. I wanted to talk about this today because I think there's a lot of things that can lead to suicide. And I think there's a lot of different things that can get people to that point to where that becomes the decision. And on viapsychiatry.org, they had a really great way of breaking it down into 3 different areas. The first one being risk factors, okay? When it comes to a person, how are we identifying risk factors that make them more susceptible to suicidal thoughts or to the option of completing or acting out a suicide attempt? So an example of this could be severe medical complications, any family history of suicide, any recent changes that may have been significant in their life that they may not have handled thoroughly, or any history of trauma. I think that's another big one that could possibly lead to it. So those are risk factors, right? Warning signs. Warning signs is the second one. Has to do with what are kind of immediate issues or immediate things that we see right in front of us that possibly could create a suicide attempt. So this is, random saying goodbyes. This could be purchasing of weapons. This could be settling accounts, this kind of thing. Random visits, out of the ordinary behavior, right? To where, we don't just pass it off as, oh, this is just something random. I mean, kind of out of the ordinary behavior to where it kind of sparks a, maybe I should ask some more questions, right? Maybe I should be a little bit more thorough in what we're talking about and how we're, what's going on in our day, to really cut out some time. Like, hey, I saw you doing this, like, how can we, sit down and talk, have a conversation, just reconnect. I think those warning signs are the things that are right in front of us that we should take seriously. And I think that's the thing too, is sometimes I think it just feels so like, I don't know, almost like to where I can't even imagine my friend or family member doing something like this. And so I think being able to recognize what those warning signs are and taking them seriously and following through with them and asking more questions. And then finally, the last one is protective factors, right? If someone is to the point to where they actively are having severe thoughts of wanting to hurt or kill themselves, they are making plans. Obviously the protective factors are getting them in a safe place. For some of those people, it can be just around a lot of loved ones or family members. For some people, they may need a higher level of care, such as a psychiatric hospital, just to keep them safe. Both examples are not supposed to be a permanent solution. They're supposed to be an immediate reaction to what's going on at that moment. They're protecting, keeping people protected and safe. Removing sharp objects from the home, being able to stay with this person as much as possible, and being able to get them to a place and to really kind of work through some of these issues and either talk to them with a licensed professional, a support group, if you're religious background, maybe some religious support as well, a clergyman. And so I think that's the thing. We got to be able to take these things seriously. And, there's numbers, and I'll definitely post a number down here, but ultimately I just want you to remember it's about connection. How are we connecting with this person? Making sure they know that you care, making sure that if you are the person experiencing these emotions, how are we remembering to connect with others, to remind them of your importance of them in your life, or vice versa, the importance of you in their life, and just being able to connect. I'll leave it on this. One of the strongest phrases I've heard in suicide is that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There's no coming back. Take this thing seriously. Be willing to cut out the time to have these conversations. And let's really do our best to save some lives. And for the people who have had loved ones or family members to complete suicide, I also don't want you to think as though you could have done anything differently. It's your fault. If only you would have been there, if only you would have acted out on some of these tips earlier. I think sometimes people do get to the point to where that is the only solution. And, in Drew's situation, I'm not a medical doctor. I haven't seen his medical records. I'm almost positive any bullet to the eye is probably a death sentence. I'm not sure what happened. But the fact that he was able to survive and he's doing all this work and really spreading the word in his story, I think is just amazing. And I hope this was a nice little recap, and hopefully this helps. And hopefully if you find this helpful, you can share this with somebody who can get something out of it. All right. So I appreciate it. Definitely comment below. I want to hear what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. And I will speak to y'all soon. All right. Take care. Peace.